She glowed like a dying star, but her touch brought him back to life. Commander Elias Voss gripped the flight controls as his scout ship, the Artemis, shuddered violently through the nebula's outer veil. Warning lights flashed across the console, bathing his sweat-streaked face in crimson. Navigation offline, the ship's AI announced with maddening calm. Hull integrity compromised. Suggest immediate exit from anomaly. Elias barked a humorless laugh. Brilliant suggestion, Artemis. Any ideas on how? The nebula, officially designated XN 779, unofficially known as the Widow's Veil, wasn't on any approved exploration routes. Fleet Command would have his rank for this unauthorized detour, but the strange energy signature had been too compelling to ignore. Now he was paying for his curiosity. The Artemis lurched, spinning into a descent toward a previously undetected planetoid. Gravity seized the crippled vessel, pulling it inexorably downward. Elias fought the controls, managing only to soften their impact as they crashed through a canopy of luminescent vegetation. When he regained consciousness, the cabin was filled with a strange, pulsing azure light filtering through the shattered viewport. Pain throbbed behind his eyes as he unstrapped himself from the pilot's seat. A quick diagnostic confirmed what he already knew: the Artemis was grounded. Life support functional, the AI reported. Exterior atmosphere breathable but contains unknown particulates. Communications array destroyed. Perfect, stranded on an uncharted world with no way to call for help. Elias grabbed his emergency pack and plasma cutter, then lowered the damaged exit ramp. The jungle that greeted him defied conventional biology. Trees with translucent trunks reached skyward, their branches laden with leaves that emitted a soft, blue-white glow. The ground beneath his boots was carpeted with moss that shimmered at his touch, responding to his footsteps like ripples in water. For 3 days, Elias worked tirelessly to salvage what he could from the Artemis. Each night, strange dreams invaded his sleep, visions of crystal cities and beings made of light. On the fourth day, following an energy reading that might offer a power source for repairs, he discovered the ruins. Ancient structures, half reclaimed by the luminous jungle, formed concentric circles around a central platform. And there, suspended in a column of light, hovered what appeared to be a stasis pod. Inside lay a woman, or something remarkably like one. Her skin was the soft yellow of dawn breaking over distant mountains, glowing faintly beneath the transparent surface of the pod. Silver hair floated around her face as if suspended in water, framing features both alien and achingly beautiful. Her body, curving gracefully beneath what appeared to be ceremonial garments of woven white material, remained perfectly still. Yet something about her seemed alive, vital, a presence that tugged at Elia's consciousness. When he touched the pod's surface, it responded immediately. The light intensified, then collapsed inward. The transparent barrier dissolved beneath his fingers, and the woman's eyes snapped open, vivid, electric blue, with pupils like starburst patterns. She gasped, drawing her first breath in what might have been centuries, and reached out instinctively. Her fingers brushed against Elias' wrist, and his mind exploded with sensation, memories not his own, emotions foreign yet intimately familiar, knowledge beyond human comprehension. She spoke, her voice like music. "You are not of the destroyers." It wasn't a question. "I'm human," Elias managed, fighting to maintain his equilibrium as their minds continued to intermingle. "My name is Elias Voss." "Human," she repeated, the word unfamiliar on her tongue. She rose gracefully, her movements fluid despite her long dormancy. Standing before him, she was tall, nearly his height, her luminous skin casting shadows across her elegant features. "I am Lyra, last daughter of the Astrians, and you, Elias Voss, have awakened me to die." "Die?" Elias' brow furrowed as he steadied Lyra, her luminous form wavering slightly as she adjusted to movement after her long stasis. "What do you mean?" Lyra gazed around at the ruins of her civilization, her blue starburst eyes reflecting the ambient glow of the jungle. The stasis field preserved me, but now, she placed a hand over her chest, where a soft pulse of light throbbed beneath her skin. My essence fades. Our star hearts cannot survive long without communion. A wave of dizziness washed over her, and Elias caught her reflexively. Where their skin touched, that same strange sensation flared, a connection beyond physical, images flickering between them like static on an old transmission. He saw a crystal city, vibrant with life and light, felt the terror as massive ships darkened the skies, experienced the desperation as Lyra's people made their final stand. She pulled back, her expression a mixture of wonder and apprehension. Your mind, so different yet familiar, so much pain there. Elias released her and stepped back, uncomfortable with the intrusion into his memories. We should get you to my ship. It's damaged, but the medical systems might help. They traversed the bioluminescent jungle in silence, each step causing the moss to illuminate their path. Lyra paused occasionally to touch the translucent trees, communicating somehow with the remnants of her world's ecosystem. Your ship crashed because of the barrier, she explained as they walked. The Astrians created it to prevent the destroyers from returning. We didn't anticipate other visitors. At the Artemis, Lyra studied the technology with fascination. Her silver hair floated around her as if caught in an invisible current, occasionally brushing against Elias' arm and sending shivers of shared consciousness through him. Your power source, she said, examining the damaged fusion drive. It's similar to principles we once used. She placed her palm against the scorched metal, and to Elias' astonishment, her skin brightened, channeling energy into the system. Lights flickered on throughout the ship. How did you? Energy manipulation is fundamental to Astrian physiology, she explained, though the effort had clearly cost her. The glow of her skin had dimmed slightly. Your ship needs replacement components I can help you create, but it will take time. Over the following days, they established a rhythm. Mornings spent harvesting crystalline growths from the jungle that Lyra could reshape into compatible technology. Afternoons devoted to repairs. Evenings around the small heat generator outside the ship, where they gradually shared their stories. Elias revealed fragments of his past, his rise through the ranks of the Stellar Exploration Corps, the disastrous mission that left his entire team dead, his self-imposed exile to solo reconnaissance missions. Each admission was like lancing a wound, painful yet somehow cleansing. Lyra spoke of Astrian culture, how they valued emotional and physical communion as sacred acts, how they once traveled between stars sharing knowledge and beauty before the destroyers came, how she had volunteered to enter stasis as a final repository of her people's essence. On the seventh night, as they sat beneath the aurora-like shimmer of the nebula visible through the jungle canopy, Lyra studied Elias' face with unusual intensity. "May I?" she asked, raising her hand toward his temple. Something in Elias wanted to refuse. The walls he'd built around his mind were his last defense. But another part, a part he'd thought long dead, yearned for connection. He nodded once. Her touch was gentle, but the mental connection flared instantly, stronger than before. He saw himself through her eyes, a being of fascinating complexity, darkness and light intertwined, carrying wounds that mirrored her own isolation. In my culture, she whispered, healing begins with understanding, your guilt over your lost companions. It consumes you like a black hole. Zelia's tried to pull away, but her other hand caught his. Don't, he warned. The difference between our species, Lyra continued undeterred, is that humans bear their pain alone. Astrians share it until it dissipates. Her forehead touched his, and the boundary between their minds thinned further. I can't, Elias breathed, even as tears formed at the corners of his eyes. Lyra's skin brightened, her radiance enveloping them both. You already are. That night, Elias slept without nightmares for the first time in years. And in the ship's small medical bay, scanners registered an anomaly. Microscopic luminescent particles now circulated in his bloodstream, while Lyra's fatting star heart pulsed with renewed strength. Their repair work accelerated, but so did the strange transformation beginning between them, a resonance neither fully understood but both increasingly craved. The crystalline component in Elias' hands hummed with energy as he carefully installed it into the Artemis's navigation system. 2 weeks had passed since he'd awakened Lyra, and the ship was nearly operational again. He should have felt relief. Instead, an unfamiliar anxiety gnawed at him. "Your mind is troubled," Lyra observed, entering the cockpit with several more fabricated parts, her movements graceful despite the weight she carried. The glow of her skin had strengthened since their mental connection, pulsing subtly with what he now recognized as her heartbeat. Elias didn't bother denying it. Their psychic link, becoming more fluid with each passing day, made deception impossible. "Once we finish repairs, I'll need to return to human space. And you wonder what becomes of me," she finished his thought, setting down her burden. A tendril of her silver hair brushed his cheek as she leaned closer, sending a cascade of shared sensations between them. "I can't just leave you here to die," he said, more forcefully than intended. Lyra's starburst eyes studied him, their blue depths seeming to see through his carefully constructed barriers. "The sacred bond of my people might offer a solution, but," she hesitated, "it would change you permanently." "What kind of bond?" "A convergence of life forces." Her fingers traced a pattern in the air, leaving momentary trails of light. Astrians could share essence with compatible species, creating a symbiotic relationship. But it was only done with deep mutual consent, usually between those who had formed profound connections. Elias felt heat rise to his face. Their connection had indeed deepened beyond anything he'd experienced, but the implications of what she suggested were overwhelming. "I need air," he muttered, setting down his tools and heading outside. The jungle received him with its perpetual twilight glow, the moss illuminating his path as he walked aimlessly. His thoughts churned. Fleet regulations strictly prohibited biological integration with non-terrestrial species. His career would be over. But more than that, the thought of such irrevocable intimacy terrified him. After losing his team, he'd sworn never to form attachments again. Yet something was already changing within him. The luminescent particles in his bloodstream had increased, according to the ship's medical scans. Sometimes at night, he could feel the faint pulse of Lyra's star heart echoing in his chest, as if they shared a circulatory system. He found himself at the ruins where he discovered her stasis pod. The central platform still emitted a faint glow, but the light was fading like a dying ember. "Our world is failing," Lyra's voice came from behind him. She stood at the edge of the ruins, her form radiant against the darkening jungle. "When the last light goes out, the barrier will collapse." "How long?" he asked. "Days, perhaps. The planet's core is destabilizing." She approached, her expression solemn. "I didn't tell you because I feared it would rush your decision." Elias felt a flash of anger, quickly dissolved by understanding that flowed through their connection. She hadn't withheld the information out of manipulation, but protection, both of him and herself. "Show me," he said suddenly, "show me what this bond would mean." Lyra's eyes widened in surprise, but she nodded. She stepped onto the platform, gesturing for him to join her. As they faced each other, she placed both hands on his chest, directly over his heart. "Open your mind completely," she whispered. The connection that formed wasn't like their previous shared consciousness. This was deeper, more fundamental, a glimpse of what a permanent bond would create. Elias gasped as he experienced existence through Astrian perception. Reality layered with energy fields, emotions manifesting as tangible colors and textures, the sacred nature of physical union as both pleasure and transcendence. He felt the emptiness in Lyra where her people's collective consciousness once resided, the profound loneliness that mirrored his own self-imposed isolation. And beneath it all, a growing affection for him, his resilience, his damaged yet unbroken spirit, his capacity for connection despite his fears. When she withdrew her hands, Elia staggered slightly, overwhelmed by the intensity of the experience. "That's only an echo of what the true bond would create," Lyra said softly. "Our essences would intertwine. You would carry part of the Astrian legacy within you. I would gain the stability of your human physiology. And if I refuse," the words felt like ash in his mouth. Lyra's glow dimmed slightly. "Then I will help you complete your repairs, and when you leave, I will remain here as the last light of my people fades." That night, Elias couldn't sleep. He lay awake in his quarters, watching the strange new luminescence that occasionally shimmered beneath his skin when his emotions ran strong. Outside, the jungle's glow had noticeably diminished, and distant tremors occasionally shook the ship. Time was running out for both Lyra and this mysterious world, and Elias faced a choice that would alter the course of his existence forever. The Artemis's engines hummed to life, casting blue light across the clearing. 3 weeks of painstaking repairs had finally restored the ship to operational status. Now, only the final navigation calculations remained before Elias could break through the nebula's barrier and return to human space. If he chose to. Inside the cockpit, Elias' fingers hovered over the control panel. A tremor stronger than previous ones shook the ship, causing warning lights to flash momentarily. The planet's core was becoming increasingly unstable. "The calculations are complete," Lyra said from the co-pilot's seat. Her voice was steady, but Elias could feel her sadness rippling through their connection. The silver in her hair had dulled slightly, and the yellow glow of her skin pulsed erratically. She was dying just as she had predicted. The brief moments of connection they had shared had extended her life, but without a permanent bond, her essence would soon dissipate. "We have a 6-hour window before the next gravitational surge," Elias said, checking the instruments. "If we miss it, the next opportunity won't come for 3 days." By which time, according to Lyra's estimation, the planet would begin breaking apart. Lyra touched a crystal display, bringing up a holographic map of the nebula. "There is another option we haven't discussed," she said quietly. "I could help you navigate through the barrier now, then return to the ruins. My final energy release might stabilize the core temporarily." Elias turned to her sharply. "You're suggesting sacrificing yourself." "It is the way of my people to give life rather than cling to it." Her starburst eyes met his unflinching. "You have your life among the stars, Commander Voss. I have accepted my fate." Something broke inside Elias, a wall he'd constructed years ago after watching his team die while he survived. The guilt, the self-imposed isolation, the refusal to form attachments, all defense mechanisms against the pain of loss. Yet here he was, facing that same pain again. "No," he said firmly, standing from his seat. "We're not discussing your sacrifice as an option." "Then what do you propose?" Lyra's voice remained gentle, but Elias could feel her frustration and hope intertwining through their link. Instead of answering, he extended his hand. "Come with me." He led her from the ship into the jungle, now significantly dimmer than when he'd first crashed. The moss barely illuminated their footsteps, and many of the translucent trees had darkened completely. Above them, through gaps in the canopy, the nebula swirled in violent patterns as the barrier began to fluctuate. They reached the ruins just as another tremor shook the ground, more violent than before. Sections of the ancient structures crumbled around them. Standing on the central platform where he had first found her, Elias finally spoke. "If we form this bond, if I agree to carry your essence, what happens to me? Will I still be myself?" Lyra's expression softened. You would remain Elias Voss, but with awareness beyond human perception. My memories would become accessible to you as yours would be to me. Our physical forms would stabilize, you gaining certain Astrian qualities, me adopting human resilience. And we would be connected forever. Yes, her voice was barely audible above the rumbling planet. In my culture, such bonds were considered the deepest expression of trust and affection. The word hung between them, inadequate yet profound. Another violent tremor split the platform beneath them. Lyra stumbled and Elias caught her instinctively. Where their skin touched, that now familiar connection flared, but weaker than before, her energy fading rapidly. Time had run out for deliberation. How do we do this? Elias asked, his decision crystallizing in that moment of contact. Lyra's eyes widened in surprise, then understanding. Her hands rose to frame his face. Are you certain, once begun, the process cannot be reversed? Elias thought of his life before the crash, the emptiness of his solo missions, the nightmares that haunted him, the hollow existence he'd accepted as penance for surviving. Then he thought of these weeks with Lyra, the gradual healing of shared consciousness, the wonder of experiencing reality through her perception, the growing affection that neither had fully acknowledged. I'm certain, he said. Lyra guided him to kneel with her on the fractured platform. She placed one luminous hand over his heart, the other at the base of his skull. Focus on the connection between us, she instructed. Don't resist what you experience. As their foreheads touched, the mental link deepened beyond anything they had shared before. Elias gasped as boundaries dissolved, not just between their minds but their very life forces. He saw the history of the Astrian civilization unfold across millennia, felt the collective consciousness that had once sustained Lyra's people, experienced the devastating loss as the destroyers systematically eliminated their worlds. In return, he felt Lyra absorbing his experiences. Childhood on Earth's lunar colony, the rigorous training of the Stellar Exploration Corps, the mission that went catastrophically wrong, the years of self-imposed emotional exile. Their physical forms began to change. Luminescence spread throughout Elias' body, concentrating in patterns beneath his skin that mirrored the constellations of Lyra's home system. Her form solidified, the erratic pulsing of her star heart stabilizing as it synchronized with his human heartbeat. Around them, the ruins began to collapse entirely as the planet entered its final phase of destruction. The Artemis burst through the nebula's outer barrier, engines straining against the gravitational forces trying to pull it back. In the pilot's seat, Elias navigated with newfound precision, his consciousness expanded beyond normal human perception. He could sense the energy fluctuations within the nebula, intuitively understanding pathways that no scanner could detect. Beside him, Lyra monitored the ship's systems, her once ethereal form now more substantial, though still luminous. The bond between them pulsed with shared energy, two beings now existing in perfect symbiosis. Barrier breach successful, Elias announced, his voice carrying a subtle harmonic quality it hadn't possessed before. Setting course for the nearest outpost. As the nebula receded behind them, they watched on the viewscreen as massive energy waves rippled through its structure. The planet they had escaped was tearing itself apart, its destruction sending shockwaves throughout the region. The last physical remnant of my civilization, Lyra whispered, a complex mix of emotions flowing through their bond, grief for what was lost, gratitude for what had been preserved. Elias reached across the console, taking her hand. Where their skin touched, light danced between them. Not the last, he reminded her. You carry their knowledge, their history, and now so do I. The transformation that had begun in the ruins had completed during their escape. Elias' human DNA had restructured to accommodate Astrian energy patterns, while Lyra's formerly ephemeral form had stabilized with human biological components. They were neither fully human nor fully Astrian, but something unprecedented, a new convergence of two evolutionary paths. "What will your people think of me?" Lyra asked as the ship's long-range communications system activated, automatically broadcasting their approach to human space. Elias considered this. The fleet had strict protocols about alien contact, and nothing in those protocols covered what they had become. "They'll be shocked, curious, probably cautious," he admitted. "But they'll also recognize the value of what we bring, knowledge of a civilization that predates human interstellar travel by millennia." Through their bond, he felt her uncertainty, not fear for herself, but concern for him. "You had a life there, a purpose." "A hollow one," he corrected gently. "I was existing, not living." The communications panel chimed with an incoming transmission. The outpost had detected them and was requesting identification. Reality intruded on their moment of reflection. "Commander Voss, this is Outpost Sentinel. We've been searching for you for nearly a month. Please confirm your status." Elias hesitated, then activated the response channel. "Sentinel, this is Commander Voss. The Artemis is operational, but there have been significant developments." As he began explaining their situation in carefully chosen words, Lyra's consciousness brushed against his, sharing a memory. An Astrian ritual where newly bonded pairs would create a constellation symbol representing their union, a pattern of light that would be recognized throughout their society as uniquely theirs. Without interrupting his report, Elias extended his free hand, focusing on the energy now flowing through him. A small pattern of lights formed above his palm, stars arranged in a configuration that represented both his human journey and Lyra's Astrian heritage, intertwined in perfect harmony. Lyra added her energy to the manifestation, and the constellation grew brighter, hovering between them as a physical representation of what they had become. Separate beings united in a bond that transcended species. A new kind of existence forged from isolation and loss, yet radiating with possibility. "We are bringing back valuable information about the XN 779 nebula," Elias continued speaking to the outpost, "and first contact protocols will need to be initiated upon our arrival." What he didn't say, couldn't possibly explain through standard communications, was that this first contact had already evolved far beyond anything in the protocol manuals. That in the ruins of a lost civilization, two lonely souls from vastly different origins had found something neither had believed possible again: connection, purpose, and a future neither could have imagined alone. As the stars of human space appeared on their view screen, Elias and Lyra faced the uncertain reception awaiting them, not with apprehension, but with the quiet confidence of those who had already overcome the greatest barrier, the one between two hearts separated by the vast distances of experience and origin. Their shared constellation continued to glow between them, a promise and a beginning, luminous proof that even in the darkest reaches of space, connection could flourish, transcending the boundaries of worlds, species, and solitude.